Hey everybody, it's Patrick here, another episode of RevTalks. Today we're joined with Jared. How's it going today, Jared?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, Pat.
Of course, appreciate you jumping on, taking some time out of your day to be on RevTalks. Do you mind giving us a little bit of some background about the actual business, who you guys are, and what you guys do?
Absolutely. So it's probably easiest to explain, my background a little bit first, and then kind of get into why we built what we built. So, CEO, co-founder of Gaggle Social. My background's in recruitment. I was working in recruitment for some time before COVID hit, and then unfortunately, things started to change really quickly in the market. So we decided to really start thinking about why it's so difficult to do technical recruitment in the first place. And then we landed on recognition of the fact that most of the tools that we have today are not designed for the purpose of recruiting for technical talent as much as it is for kind of general purpose, all in one size fits all hiring solutions. So we figured there's a better way to get it done. Started to build, and what we've created is Gaggle Social's social network and hiring platform designed entirely for the technical ecosystem. We remove the friction from the hiring process, and we make hiring up to 63% faster for tech, with 73% faster skills evaluation and 85% more manageable shortlists.
Nice. Okay. So you guys found a solution or found a problem in the marketplace and then sort of crafted a solution around there as well. And in terms of when a new customer comes into to the business, how do they find you? I know there's various different ways. Word of mouth referrals, networking are obviously, sometimes top two or even just kind of the most basic ones. What other ways are customers currently coming in?
Yeah, so I would say that our biggest channel right now is definitely on the socials front. We do a lot of um, communicating with folks on a one-to-one basis with our team members, as well as a lot of folks who have used our platform will refer us out to others. Most of our uh, I would say acquisition channels are based around the organic structure. We are bootstrapping, so we're always looking for ways to be as cost effective and efficient as possible. Another way that we like to attract talent is that when we do spend money, like to sponsor experiential opportunities for folks. That'll be really more in the technical event space or really more like networking and happy hours of sorts. And that's effectively the way that we've been able to drive the most interest. It's kind of being that experiential push and allowing us to show up in person and share the benefits of what we've created.
Nice. I like that. And taking a look at the website, obviously, it looks like you guys have a portfolio of businesses or events that you guys have on the website where I guess people congregate and that's like the network that they actually get on. And then they actually have the access to a bunch of different opportunities in terms of listing and things like that. Is that kind of the flow of the model? Like, hey, we're going to intro you to the opportunities, but it's obviously your job to move forward with the rest of the process, or how do you guys kind of lead that, especially because looking at it, it almost looks like it's a software with a dashboard, if I'm not mistaken. So it looks very interesting. I've seen a couple of these before, but it seems more unique.
Well, I appreciate that. No, absolutely. So effectively, the way that our platform really, I think, stands on its own 2 feet is really based around the technical world as well as this skills-based approach. Most of the platforms that folks are familiar with are general approaches, right? They allow you to put your resume in, they detail all the experience. What we do is we kind of subsect and we really focus on that technical need, right? That Salesforce admin experience, that Python developer experience. And we pull that out into a matrix. And that matrix is what allows folks to evaluate talent a lot quicker. So they're actually not skimming through resumes. Instead, they're using that matrix as their guide that allows them to justify whether or not spending time on the resume makes sense. But we use that also in our matching as well as our recommendations engine. So in order for us to give you the most, as you can say, uh, exciting or impactful opportunities for you that also align very well with your needs for social and your needs for content consumption. Effectively, we focus on those key areas that make you unique so that way we can continue to draw and surface things that are actually impactful to you and not just noise in the market. So rather than kind of just all the people that you follow being your main feed, it's a combination of those plus all the technical tags that you use. And then that's what allows you to surface both jobs, get recommended for jobs, be referred by others for jobs, as well as receive content that actually, I guess you could say, completely encompasses all of your skills and experience based on what's being put out.
Nice. Yeah, that makes sense. And with the actual software, you guys charge it a monthly subscription? Or are you guys doing upfronts or per actual job signed or interview, or that's kind of the pricing model on that?
Yeah, it's a little bit unique as well, the way that we approach that. Well, the platform itself is free use. So anybody can go on, create a profile. It's actually also free to post a job. You post a job to our network, and what we actually have embedded is our anti-bias talent management. So effectively, applicants come in to your shortlist when they match for those roles, really only able to apply if they're uh, s- a 60% or above match. Otherwise, they have to request to apply from the hiring team, and then effectively they all come in anonymous. We wanted to work for this up in August for this concept. And effectively speaking, what ends up happening is that, it blocks all the personal identifiers that feed subconscious biases, race, gender, age, religion, or more, and then allows you to really focus on those core and key technical skills and where they match for your role. And then you unlock them for microtransactions between $1 and $11.
I see. Okay, so it's pay as you go kind of. And so
Yes.
at each milestone or specific event that occurs throughout the process of them being hired or the vetting process, it's still okay, interesting. And I think that definitely incentivizes people to remain, and stick with it. Do you ever fear that, obviously customers would be more unhappy with that model because obviously if they're paying a bunch to get to, let's say, the ninth milestone and the 10th milestone is the one that actually lands in the job or lands on like the key interview that they're really looking for, whatever on the business.
No, well, effectively speaking, the only actual transaction happening is the unlock process. We provide an entire candidate relationship management suite involved in that, and you manage your candidate and your interview stages as well as collaborate with your team for no cost. And the unlock feature allows them to really control their spend. So rather than having your job posted on a daily spend for say $12 to $15 a day, up to $30 a day, and then you're getting a bunch of applicants that you're unsure if they match, how they fit, and then have to go through all of them. Our system pretty much allows you to post your job for free, put that line out there, attract as much candidates that seem like they are interested in it as possible, and then we rank them based on how close of a match they are, and then you control your spend on how much you actually put out based on who you unlock. So you're not required to unlock the whole shortlist. You only unlock the folks that are most interesting to you, and then you have access to our entire suite for free after that.
Okay, I like that. And so you're working from both ends to where obviously the recruiters are posting jobs to stimulate the economy in that sense to actually get work. And then you obviously have the companies and businesses on there as well that are actively looking. Okay, yeah, that's a very interesting solution. It's front end and back end as well. Very nice, very nice.
Thank you.
And can you kind of briefly walk me through how you guys have been growing over these past 12 months with social media and other things like that? What kind of marketing and sales initiatives have really moved the needle for you and pulling down?
Yeah, I mean, we really just got into the experiential side a little bit more recently. I mean, we sponsored a couple of events here and there, but being active and having boots on the ground is far more efficient if you have somebody who really knows not only the business, but also how to communicate, right? Um, and effectively, that's been, I think, the most impactful piece for us. But another area is really, we're very fortunate to be in a position where interest for the users on our platform is really based around the jobs, right? Because where there are jobs, the job seekers will come, right? So what we spend a lot of time doing is a kind of a multi-stage process. We look for opportunities to go boots on the ground and meet some people who are new, who are going to be in decision-making positions. From there, we explain what we do. We show them sometimes in person what the power is of it. We book that call, and we better understand what it is that they better understand what it is that we're doing. And then from there, once that job is posted, we're able to blast that to our market, our advisors, networks, as well as other networks in different social experiences, and attract a lot of different, very talented and diverse folks to check us out. And we're very fortunate to kind of have that magnet that once you come in, the user experience has been enough that you stick around, right? So what we've seen just kind of from these major changes over the past couple of months is, a far higher monthly active user count and a lot more satisfied users because we're listening to our market too. So I think that's other key part is that asking publicly for support and helping us build the best possible environment on an organic scale really does let a lot of early adopters, a lot of forward thinkers, you know, be interested and also understanding when things aren't, always in the tip top shape or they're in beta, and they give their advice and their feedback, and that allows them to also share with other people. So we have a lot of different small nuances that are detailed that bring in a additional user base. Yeah, we're kind of in this interesting point, right? Where we're kind of like half in, half out of fundraising. We're in the position where we are starting to really make enough that, we're justifying and weighing out the cause of whether or not raising funds right now is necessary, which is a phenomenal position to be in, right? It was a period of time where we were like, we really need to raise funds, but we don't have the time to focus on it. And now we have the time to focus on it, and we're building our own growth within that is kind of justifying us, you know, being open. We're open to raising funds. We would love to. We have a campaign. We're kind of in a bit of a micro campaign now. I just recently went on and pitched publicly at the Startup Grind New York, which is phenomenal. And then I have another one coming up in a month with called Venture Crush, which is going to be another great opportunity. Talked to a couple of investors more recently about the opportunity there, and we're in early stage chats. But it's something that we recognize as a nice to have, right? It's something that we're going to be, I think, the more selective party in this kind of concept because what we're looking for is a partner, and that requires us to do a lot of due diligence on our end. It's just as they do, right? So it's an interesting place to be in, and it's really exciting to kind of be a bit of the decision maker on that choice.
Yeah, definitely. And I think too that a lot of times, especially when you get traction from a very like early perspective, or even just from a very consistent perspective with these types of things, it's like word of mouth carries, and then obviously like different marketing initiatives and things like that really move the needle too. But I really don't think, I mean, a lot fundraising obviously is another game of in itself. That's a whole other topic of discussion. But at the end of the day, I mean, obviously if you're getting decent traction, your growth rate's good, and then you obviously your turn rate and things like that, and things are solid, then it's like you really don't need to raise like we don't really need to raise funds unless you're looking at doing some worldwide marketing campaign. I wouldn't even consider if I was ever in that like kind of software position.
Right, right. And I agree. And I think where we get the most kind of caught up in the weeds there is that if you really think about who our competitors are, they're very big, right? So once they catch on that we're moving really fast, it's going to be a lot easier for them to just come dump market into it. So having support of a partner who has tried and true and knows the market, knows how to navigate these waters, knows how to be competitive also in their marketing, and then has the dollars to back it up in addition to that, has the connections to make there. But it creates an opportunity that I think justifies the concept, and that's what makes it, interesting. But at the end of the day, if we continue down this path, we'll be in a position where we're very confident we'll be able to come out, well, strong, and keep moving forward. So that's really, I think, where it is a little bit inspiring for our team, right? It's like we want to do it because it makes
Absolutely.
sense, and we know
Yeah.
that it'll protect us. But at the same time, it's something that we recognize that if we don't get it tomorrow, we're not going to die.
Definitely, yeah, and it's a good position. I think time will tell as well,
Yeah.
whether or not it really needs to get in. Yeah, I've seen a lot of businesses and spoken to a lot of businesses recently when it comes to aggressively implementing AI, whether it's through front end or back end or even just like solutions or fulfillment. When it comes down to implementing AI, obviously it's a buzzword, everybody knows about it. What are some ways you guys are currently doing that? I know you briefly talked to earlier about Matrix and things like that, where you push and extract the data out, which is super smart. And we do a little bit of that too when it comes down to outreach and things like that. Can you talk about that a little bit and how you guys are utilizing AI within the actual software itself?
Yes. Well, the way that we approach AI is actually a little bit different than everybody, I think, in today's market is doing. Everybody focuses on AI as this, uh, kind of gives it this messiah complex, right? It's going to save us from all these different concepts and issues, and we're going to get things done a lot faster, a lot more efficiently. And then they end up finding that it's really doesn't always do that for you, and especially when you're doing things like vibe coding. For us, what we recognize is that the function of HR is human, right? It's human resources. You're hiring, it's a human hiring a human. So when you add in the robotic and or I should say it's more three-dimensional, but very, very black and white concept logic that goes into how AI thinks, it actually makes it more challenging to get these done. And that's why you start looking at these lawsuits against things like Workday or companies like Eightfold, where they had this black box concept that you really can't explain. And it always kind of pulls on the bias nature of things. So really we're differentiating ourselves in the market is that your ingestion of the data to build your matrix and your ingestion of the data to build your job description and how your criteria is going to be built is where AI comes in most prominently for us, right? And then afterwards, where the actual matching happens, we actually do a very direct apples to apples match. And that also supports our benefit against the concept of ATS, right? The ATS platforms, most of the time, what you'll see is it'll be one-to-one keyword matching similarly to ours, but it's all based around manual input. And if you don't cover all the different ways that, for example, Salesforce can be abbreviated or respelled, you will miss folks because it's not checking a one-to-one match plot. The AI isn't built into those areas to do the nuance and research in the background prior. So that's kind of where we become a little bit competitive against those markets because our AI happens to build the connection, not necessarily to recognize the connection or nuance based on what my team might want, right? Our system kind of creates the apple to apple and then actually does the apple to apple connection from that area. So I'm pretty proud to say that there actually is no real AI inside the match itself. It's based entirely around what both teams, both sides of the coin have approved is the way they want to represent their job or themselves.
I see. Okay. So the front end for the candidate is data that's inputted, right? And that
Yeah.
obviously matches them to a company that inputted similar data on what they're looking for.
Effectively. So you put your resume in, our system goes ahead, parses it, uses AI to build the nuance, and then build your skills matrix based on what it notices and recognizes, right? Doing it for you so that we're not sitting there manually adding. And of course, AI will get things wrong sometimes. So people will have to add things that maybe they didn't account for or they didn't properly or didn't deeply describe in their resume. And then the same thing goes with their hiring team when they're building out their criteria of the requirements for the job, right? They'll put their job description in, our system will use AI to parse it. It'll pull out the most important pieces. It'll outline those for you. And then both sides need to approve before they actually go ahead and use it. And then once it's done, then we create that nuanced match. Once it's actually looking at it, right? We
Nice.
build that
Nice.
template within our system.
Sweet. And is that a technical solution that has been coded, or is that an LLM that's been prompted?
That is a
Or
technical solution that's been coded. We're really not using much LLM prompting. We do have some small nuanced things like, for example, if we recognize that your company isn't in our database, we'll look for the logo using like an open router piece, right? That kind of throws that in there. But most of our stuff is proprietarily coded.
sweet, sweet. And how many current customers do you guys have out on the platform as of right now?
Yeah, yeah. So we have about 4,800 signups, and we've done some data auditing, so that's kind of fluctuating right now based on, folks who have, early on couldn't remember their password, and then or didn't realize whether or not they had an account, so they re-signed up. So we're our numbers are kind of floating right now because we're seeing them grow as we're also seeing them, be cleaned. So as of this morning, we were sitting out around 42. So I'm hoping that will be probably around 48 again in the next couple of days.
Yeah, sweet. Very nice, very nice. And where on the internet can we find you? What are some links to your socials, company website, things like that?
Sure, sure. So find us on LinkedIn. We're very active on LinkedIn right now. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. My name is just Jared Tang. So you can find me by searching that way. And you can also find us on Google. We just recently opened or reopened up our X and Blue Sky accounts. So we're getting a little bit more active in that world because we made a wonderful new team member that we added to the team that's focused on social. And you can also find us on a podcast called Tectonic Podcast that I will sit down with folks who are either job seeking or hiring managers, and I'll build the opportunity for them to be able to either share new things that they're working on, how they can possibly, or how they hire, how they approach those things, so on and so forth. That is on Spotify, Apple, and also on LinkedIn as well.
Sweet. I appreciate you taking some time out of your morning to hop on here, Jared.
Likewise.
Thanks for being here, obviously, and we'll stay in touch and talk soon.
Thanks for having me, Pat. It's a lot of fun.